Did you ever think getting into the trades would let you see the world the way you have?
Absolutely not. As a small town kid, born and raised in Wiley, Texas, no. And I've been blessed to go all over the world, 6 different continents, all kinds of countries. Absolutely not. It's an absolute blessing.
You've been to almost all of them then.
All of them but Antarctica.
No, I was going to say almost all of them. Tradesmen built America. Not policymakers or desk jockeys, but hardworking, blue-collared men and women. Join me, Roger Wakefield, on conversations with some of the nation's most successful skilled laborers. This is the Trade Talks. Furthest place, furthest from the house.
Furthest from the house, travel distance-wise, I'd have to say is probably Western Australia, Perth. I got an opportunity to work at a gold mine, Boddington Gold Mine in Western Australia. That's probably the furthest travel.
So when you say a gold mine, this isn't in drilling. You're not just talking a little hole.
No, sir. This is a hole in the ground that is 5 miles wide, about 2 miles, 5 miles long, 2 miles wide, and probably about 6,000 feet deep, about a mile into the ground. It's a big hole, a big hole.
Okay. The neatest place, most fun.
The most fun, the neatest place, my personality, I got to spend some time working in Indonesia. And, man, I got to stay in this beautiful little village and stayed in this little hotel called Yo-Yo Surf Shack. And the greatest food, Thai food. I mean, the food was unbelievably good. My hotel room was 50 yards from the beach. Come to find out that the season before, Billabong had the 2020 national championship for surfing there. And so just a beautiful place. It was very cool, very, very beautiful place. I enjoyed that one.
So did you go surfing?
No, I didn't get a chance to go surfing. I'd like to, though, one day.
Okay, no, I can get that. All right, where's the strangest, the weirdest place? Maybe the place you like the least?
That one, hands down, I'd have to say was Egypt. Egypt was a wonderful experience. It was a blessing to get to go there again. I mean, traveling those parts of the world and getting to see that is epic, right? But August in the middle of a platinum mine, in the middle of a desert. I'm telling you, I thought I'd seen deserts before, but when you're somewhere where even cacti don't like to grow, it was something. So that one, it was every day at work there was 114 degrees Fahrenheit ambient temperature. That's not down in the pit. And although I would never want to go back there, it was a wonderful experience, and I'm very grateful to get to travel those places and do that.
So what makes the experience wonderful?
The people that I get to meet and talk to, Roger, I feel like I was blessed early in life to come to the realization that, truth be told, life's not about accomplishments, it's about relationships.
You bet.
And, man, I've met a lot of wonderful people, and every place that God's placed me throughout the world with this job, I've had an opportunity to talk to people, have meaningful conversations. And, when God set something like that up, little small town boy from Wiley having a conversation in Egypt or the Ukraine. I got to work in the Ukraine for a little while. I mean, it's phenomenal. So yeah, that's what makes it something that I would never want to take back. But like I say, sometimes some of them you may not want to have again.
Very interesting. In the trades, which I've had many people in here, people that get in the trades normally, they get in the trade locally. They go to work for a local mechanical company, plumbing, electrical, HVAC. Travel may be part of it. The union people that I know, they can get a travel card and travel around the United States and work in different places. I've seen some go overseas for just short stints to do stuff with local companies that are doing something over there. But normally you don't see anybody get into the trades and travel the world.
I feel like I'm an exception, in all honesty. I feel like I'm very, very blessed. Once again, no college education, not a formally trained welder. There are some prestigious welding schools across the country that, if you got a resume that you came from there, I mean, then you know something. And No, at the end of the day, a friend of mine last night, Drake, Drake House, him and I were talking about, when you get into something, a lot of it's your work ethic, right? So a lot of it's like when you want to be the best, that's what carries you, right? I mean, it's your willingness to learn and to grow. And so I've just always been passionate about welding, and I've wanted to be the best no matter where I was at. So
Nothing wrong with that. So tell everybody who you are and what you do.
my name's Corby Sirkel. Currently, I work for a mining drilling solutions company called Epiroc Drilling Solutions, and there I hold a title of Global Technical Services Engineer. I've been with the company for 19 years, and I was a production welder and engineering fabricator, and did engineering testing and welded up fixtures and stuff for that. And yeah, so that's what I am. It's who I do. That's what I do. Yeah, so it's fun.
It is fun. But really, you started out just as a welder.
Well, I started out as many things, to tell you the truth. My dad is a tradesman. My dad's he's a journeyman electrician, and he's an awesome man. I mean, he's a diesel mechanic as well as an electrical, as a journeyman electrician. So pretty unique trade there. And I come from a family of tradesmen, all right? And so right out of high school, Dad said, look, you're doing well. He says, you can go to college or you can go to work, but whatever we do, if you live here, you're welcome to say something. But he said, you got to live by our rules. And I said, well, okay, I've been living by these rules for 18. They're a good set of rules, Dad. You've done really good. And that's the honest truth. But I said, well, it's time I spread my wings and fly. And so I left the house at 18 years old and started in concrete. And I worked for a local concrete company here. And I quickly found out I didn't want to pull mud for a living. That's got to be one of the toughest jobs. Just like a lot of the trades, especially commercial trades, you're in it. The cold weather, the hot weather, and depending what you're doing in that cold or hot weather is what's going to make a man out of you or not. And so I decided I didn't want to do concrete work. And he says, hey, I got a friend of mine that's in plumbing. Man, plumbings make the money. And that's when my dad, he's like, hey, plumbers make the money, son. You got to realize that it's a big time trade. And I said, okay. He says, I got a friend of mine that's down at the local union. He says, we can get you hired in. They'll get you trained up, and you become a journeyman plumber. And I'm thinking, okay. And I'm Dad's doing what dads do, right? He's trying to guide me, right? And I thank him for that. And so I joined the local union and started out working for a local commercial, builder. Excuse me. And so becoming the plumbing trade, right? So I'm a plumber's apprentice, and it was a fun trade. And don't get me wrong, like I like working with my hands, but I was a welder. I welded in 4 years in high school and shop. My senior year, I'll never forget, we had a project that a little construction company called Austin Construction. You've probably heard of them.
Oh, yeah.
They somehow or another, a bunch of 17-year-old kids from Wiley High School built a 45-foot gooseneck trailer for them. And I just remember thinking at that time, like, wow, this is something that could, that I could use. And so anyways, fast forward, so I realized that plumbing wasn't my gig. And then I decided that I wanted to take on welding. And, I tried my own thing there for a little while, doing my own business, setting up carports, doing odd and end jobs and such. And then is when the real stuff happened, when I got a job at where I work now. And that's a whole nother story. So
this video is sponsored by Leak Pro. Go check out leak-pro.com. So what led you over there? How? And I guess looking for a welding position. I remember, you could drive around Garland and there'd be signs hanging out, looking for a welder.
Yeah.
And I always saw that because, you never see them hanging out looking for a plumber. But always, we're hiring welders, we're hiring this. And I remember I got a job out in Rowlett one time, spot welding. We're working for a company out there that built these wire racks. It was really cool. And, welding was always fun.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think as a younger guy, I ever saw that as a job. How did you find the welding job you've got that turned into such an amazing profession?
Dad, so he was working at Holt Caterpillar on their power systems, so big diesel generators and such, right? So and he ended up getting a job at it was then Ingersoll Rand or Atlas Copco, but he ended up getting a job there. They said, hey, look, we could use your skill here, would you like to come work for us? And he did. And somewhere around, I was 20, 21. Okay, so when you put the time out events up there, 18, so you work in concrete and then you're working the plumbing job. So about 2021, I'm thinking, really, I'm back for the first and only time I'll go back to Dad's house, right? And it's about 4 months I lived with him at 20, 21 years old. And he's like, son, you got to get a job. You got to figure it out, You got to figure it out. And I'm going through that season of life that a lot of us went through at 18 to 20 years old,
Just want to relax and slow down.
Yeah, man, And so he says, look, son, he goes, they're hiring welders and mechanics out here at this place where we build drilling rigs, open pit mining drilling rigs. And he says, you really need to come up here. They pay well. They got good benefits. And I'm like, Dad, I don't know nothing about drilling rigs. They don't want to waste their time, blah, blah, blah. He says, son, I'm telling you, this place is cool. Like the other guy, you build them, then you got on the test pad. He says, son, the test pad's where you want to be. All these guys, all these old hands out here, he said, they're the ones making sure the machine functions right, works right, welds on all the stuff, okay. And so I did that. So it took some coaching, right, Roger? And so I finally show up to do a weld test. And at this point, like I said, no weld school, no trade school, nothing like that. So this is all, shop welding. And I'd learned how to MIG, TIG, and stick weld and was good at it. So I thought.
Yeah.
Okay, so I show up at this place to take an official weld test. We're talking about a big boy weld test. So this is, the company holds API certifications because they're also in oil and gas. And anything you weld on there, it's weld stamped, it's tracked, it's logged. And so the weld test, it's what they call a 3G and 4G unlimited thickness test. So you're taking a 1-inch thick plate with a 45-inch bevel and a backer, and you do 4 tests. You do an uphill test, and then you do an overhead test. Okay, so you do this with stick, and you do this with a MIG gun, okay? I'd never welded straight vertical, and I dang sure, Roger, had never welded above my head, upside down.
You bet.
And I'll never forget to this day, I'm welding, and I start out, at this point in time, I start out with the MIG because I think it's the easiest, right? I'll get this knocked out. And I'll never forget, I got 4 plates to weld on. I get done with the first one, and a man by the name of David Humphreys is a wonderful guy. He's, at the end of the day, he's a phenomenal welder, a great teacher, But he comes over and he looks at it, he takes his glasses down, and he goes, we don't weld like that here. There ain't no sense in you doing the rest of the plates. And he kicks me off site. And I'm thinking, geez, okay, well, Dad said I was a shoo-in up here, and that's one thing that I'd like to say. At the end of the day, being a welder is the only trades profession that having a card in your pocket doesn't mean anything to the man you're going to go work for.
You bet.
You got to test out at every job you go to. And so,
plumbing's about the same way. Don't get me wrong. Just because you got a plumbing license,
right,
doesn't mean you're a good plumber.
Mm-mm.
That means you were able to pass the test in Austin, if you're in
That's
Texas.
exactly right.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And so, but that hurt my feelings. That hurt my feelings. I'm not gonna lie. I'm thinking, dude, I'm 21 years old. That's right, man. I'm thinking, dude, okay, you didn't even let me finish, dude. And he's like, we don't weld like that here.
Yeah.
You don't even waste our time, essentially, is what he said. And so, man, I went home defeated. And I was like, Dad, I told you, that. He says, no, son. He goes, check it out. He says, get in up here. He said, get in an assembler. He said, just come in as a mechanic and just build some stuff. He said, and then learn from these guys. There's a lot of guys out here that you can learn from.
You bet.
And I did. I took it. So I started in as an assembler. And Roger, I knew that I wanted to be a welder. So from that day forward, I literally spent about an hour to 2 hours every single day after work with a welding machine. Will y'all guys let me have material? But you can have all the material you want to if you can practice. And it probably took me, I'd say 9 months to a year of practicing, because I'll tell you, that 3G and 4G unlimited test is no joke, man. And so it took me a while, and it took me 2 more times to pass all 4 tests, but I finally got there. And so I finally passed the test, and it was a big deal. You get a bonus when you pass that weld test. I mean, at the end of the day, they were X-ray tests. And so with the API, I mean, they held us to some pretty tight standards. In all honesty, a little bit, it was tough. So if you had a pinhole in your whole 6-inch plate, in a 1-inch thick, you're done. And it's like, well, and that's where, anyway, so it's, I finally made it, and I got my weld stamp, and I was on my way. And from that point forward was where the real work started. You know, that's when you got to really start to learn your fitting, your measuring. That's when the experience comes in, right? Because welding on plates in a booth, yeah, you might learn how to string a bead together, but it's whenever you get in them awkward positions, it's whenever it's the middle of the day, it's whenever, you know, it's the real welding. We're not talking about booth welding. We're talking about on stuff, you know.
Yeah,
so
upside down.
that's exactly
where
right.
it's really real.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
You know, and so that's where it started. And that was, I passed my weld test back in 2007 with the company. And so I've been a welder then ever since. I keep my cert now. I test out every 6 months to keep my cert. That's one of the things I do as an engineer now is write weld procedures and structural repair for our machines. So
2007, so you're 24 years old, and you've been defeated. You've already been whooped.
yeah,
Hey, don't waste our time. You can't do this.
yeah,
I like the perseverance, though. Hey, I'll get a job as an assembler. I'll stand here and put stuff in boxes. I'll bolt stuff together. Whatever y'all tell me to do, I'm gonna do. But I know where I want to be.
yeah.
A lot of people these days would just say, "That's it. I'm done. I didn't pass. I'm not going back. I'm embarrassed."
Yeah, God builds us uniquely different, you know, and he built me to succeed. That's just the way he built me. So like when you put a challenge on me, I don't matter how hard it is. Like I don't like failure. I'm very mission driven. Like, you know, if that's the mission, if that's the goal, we're going to succeed one way or the other. It may take a lot of time, talent, and effort, energy, and effort, but we're going to go for it. And especially when somebody says you can't do something. We don't do that here.
I'll hold my beer. Watch this.
Well, then show me.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, that's the approach that I took. It's like, okay, then show me. I'm coachable. That's the other thing in life is you got to be coachable.
Oh God,
you got to be
that's a big
coachable.
one.
Yeah, I mean, you got to. I remember there's one guy that just doing the same process that I did, and he never made it. You know why? Because he was not coachable. That's the truth.
You know, we talked about negative comments on videos and stuff like that earlier. There's a great guy on YouTube. Love watching him, love what he does. He says, look, I don't mind people telling me I'm bad. I don't mind people telling me I suck. Tell me what makes you think that.
Yeah, right.
And I love, and that's part of being coachable.
Yep.
Don't just tell me you did that block wrong. Okay, tell me how to do it right.
That's exactly right. It's always wanting to striving for improvement. There's always room for improvement.
So you passed the well cert. You're legit now. A lot of people in the trades, once they get that certification, they stop learning. Plumbers are the worst. I'm going to tell you, I know I've seen it a million times. Once we get that license, I got in the trade to become a plumber. Once I get that license in my pocket, it's like, just let me plumb.
Yep.
There's nothing else to learn. And, somewhere along the way, luckily, I woke up and said, hey, wait, there's these other certifications I can get, these other endorsements that I can get.
Right. There's
other opportunities. I can't just do plumbing. Now I can do med gas. Now I can do water supply protection specialist. Now I can do multi-purpose residential fire protection systems. Somewhere along the way, I woke up and thought, wait, I want to learn more.
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming you just didn't get your certification. Say, there, leave me alone now. Put me in the corner and treat me like a tool.
Well, hey,
pull me out at 7:00. Put me up at 3:30.
No, it going back to like I say, when you want to be the best, that's not the mentality you take, right?
What makes you want to be the best? Because that's what. Nothing bad against most of the people getting in the trades right now. We need people in the trades.
Yeah,
at every level: plumbing, electrical, HVAC, roofing, welding, carpentry. It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
everybody is looking for people. Most of the people getting in today, I think, just want a job, just want a check.
Yeah.
How do we motivate them to want to be the best? Because
it's a good question, Roger.
Man,
that's a good one. If employers and teachers and trainers and leaders around the world, if there was a smoking gun to that question, boy, wouldn't we like to have it? And I think it's something, I do think it's something that can be taught and trained, right? So, I've read somewhere that, 21 days you can create a habit.
You bet.
That's how long it takes. 21 days and you've started a habit. So I do believe that people are coachable and trainable to a certain degree. Like we said a minute ago, you have to have a certain level of coachability about you, right? And so I think it's a recipe. It's a combination, right? So I think it's who you surround yourself with in life. That's a big one, right? Don't surround yourself with people who agree with everything you said. That's
I'll
right.
show you your future.
That's exactly right. You need to surround yourself with people who challenge how you think, challenge how you act, right? And so it's a culmination. You know, I do think that leaders and people like that are born that way. I think people are just born as go-getters. But I do think it's a coachable thing too. There are people in this life that you can break, you know, family, you know, however they say that, you know, it's not a tradition when it's a bad, but anyway, yeah, generational curses as they call them, right? So it just takes work and effort. Now, getting back to the question, I mean, some people I think are born with it, and I was born with the need to want to be the best.
And look, I love that. I do. And I don't know that we're born with it. I think that it's ingrained upon us in our formative years.
Yeah.
I think that, you know, the competition, you know, you had a little sister, and it's like there's that protection factor. I had a little sister.
Yep.
I wanted to make sure, look, I can protect her against anybody. You know, I think that helps. I think there's a lot of different things that go along, but then again, you look at some kids that were only children, they want to be the best.
Yeah.
It's like, well, you never competed against anybody.
Right.
You know, you had the whole world handed to you.
What are you doing to be the best?
Yeah. And they're like, well, look, you know, and I think those people, they want to make their parents proud. They, you know, we've all got different inherent reasons that we want to do it. I just, man, to me, we've got to find a way to motivate the current youth.
Yeah.
You know, right now in the trades, for every year or each year, for every 10 people that get out of the trades, only 4 are getting back in.
That's scary.
Yeah, it is. And especially since the average age of, like, say, journeyman plumbers in Texas is like 58 years old.
Wow.
That ain't young.
There's a lot of people coming in.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, I tell people that all the time. People that get in the trades right now are going to be the entrepreneurs of the future. Yeah. They're going to be able to work for themselves. They're going to be able to do different things. So you got in, you got your cert, you're happy, you're a welder. What did you learn to help you move up and grow and learn more?
So within the company, right? So you don't, when you ever get your cert, right? Whenever you got your plumbing license, they didn't put you on the most prestigious plumbing job, did they? No. Right. So you start out at the bottom. And so naturally at my company, we have, you know, machines that take less welding and then machines that take way heavier welding. And the department that I welded in was a rubber tire unit department. So we built water well units and exploration oil and gas type units. And we welded on consoles and some outriggers. You're talking, you know, 6-8-inch jack barrels, nothing major. And at the department across the way, okay, so we're talking rubber tire units that are on Peterbilt chassis, crane carrier chassis, stuff like that, you know. So the whole drill with derrick and everything, you know, maybe 100,000 pounds, you know, something like that. Across the way in the other department, they're welding on the Pit Viper 351. This is a 388,000 pound machine that's got 21 foot long tracks on it that are 6 foot tall. And I'm looking over at this little thing and I'm like, well, I want to be welding on that. You bet. That's where they're doing preheating and post heating and wrapping. That's when you're welding, you know, 4-inch wide clevises to, you know, 14-inch I-beams. And so I thought, okay, well, what do I need to do to get there? And so, I did what I needed to do to get there. And so, you know, I seen an opportunity come open. I applied for the job and, you know, boom, they moved me over and then I'm doing that. And then from that point, like you're saying, okay, well, now what's next? I thought, well, how do I gain a knowledge there? So it's, you know, learning fixtures, studying weld symbols, studying drawings. So from there, I ended up getting a job at the engineering department where all I did for about 5 years was build and test fixtures, test structures for engineering, new product development. And that was a pretty fun gig for a while. Now, what do you call fixtures? Test fixtures. So if we want to test this microphone stand for its longevity and we want to pull it back and forth, you know, 1,000 times, well, I'm going to build the fixture it's going to stand on. Then I'll build the piece that's going to hold, you know, the pneumatic or hydraulic cylinder that's going to work this thing back and forth. So it's fixtures to help whatever it may test. I mean, if it's a chair, if it's a hydraulic cylinder, if it's a clevis, a hinge, or pulling on something. So just anything the engineer can think of and need to build. Yeah.
Love that. You move up, you get into engineering, you move up more, then you get into the training.
Mm-hmm. Then that's to me, Raj. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love the old days of putting my hood down and coming in and welding for 8-10 hours a day. Like, those are the good days, man. You throw the radio on in the background and your hood's down. You don't think about nothing. But like I said in the beginning, relationships and people. I really like training. And here's the deal. And you know this. Not everybody's a trainer.
Mm-hmm.
There are lots of people out there traveling from city to city that companies have in positions of training. They're missing a key factor, and that's called effective communication.
Mm-hmm.
When you can't effectively get across what you're trying to train to somebody, well, then all they did was pay some money and leave out with a piece of paper.
You bet.
And so training to me is fun. I mean, it's something where you get to share knowledge. And that's the other thing too, man, you learn when you're teaching. That's when you get out in these other people's and, training all around the world and going around places like, hey, what kind of isolated issues are y'all dealing with here that nowhere else in the world is dealing with? And how can we help you with that? Metal acts completely different, and it's in a negative 43 degrees Fahrenheit temperature, and figuring out problems in structures at negative 140, 114 degree Fahrenheit. I got to work at a place, a Baffinland mine. It's 4 miles from the magnetic North Pole. When I landed October 31st, it was negative 31 degrees Fahrenheit. And so, just taking it to that next level, and just always, and now you're in the, like I say, the training, just learning and teaching people how to do stuff. It's giving back, but also it's getting back. So,
how do you learn to be an effective communicator?
By putting in the time and learning the different communications, the different learning abilities from different people. Everybody learns differently, so you got to figure out what may appeal to a certain person. Look, when somebody buys a training package from you and they send 10 technicians down here, one technician's going to be a visual learner. One technician's going to want to read the manual, believe it or not, but, and so that's what makes you an effective communicator. It's being in the moment and recognizing, y'all, we need to take a 5-minute break. It's only been 30 minutes since lunchtime, but I see heads bound, either that or let's do an interactive, activity. So it's being engaged in the training, So
what's your favorite part about training people?
I would have to say it's getting to know new people. Getting to know new people, and it may sound selfish, but then what I get from meeting these new people, whether it's a skill that I haven't learned yet, or just a relationship that, that God will put together, that now I've got a friend that I'm talking to on the other side of the world, and we're communicating about, life's problems, maybe and such. So it's that human interaction and connection, I think, that gives me fulfillment. Truth be told.
How does the United States get more people into the trades?
Ooh, that's a tough question, Roger. I think at the end of the day, there needs to be a campaign about it. I mean, it needs to be this, that people know and understand that the trades are fun. It's a good career path. I mean, at the end of the day, if you look around, Roger, ain't nothing that's ever been built here. It's all built by tradespeople. Everything's a trade. Everything. This table was built by a carpenter. Everything you look at. And so there just really needs to be, for a long time, for several decades in America, it was college. Mm-hmm. And I think what we're seeing here, and this is one of the unique things I've kind of started to study at work, is that when actions take years for the consequences to come through, right? So people don't always think that, a lot of times you don't see consequences until way down the road. And I think what we're seeing consequences from 1985 to 2010.
Oh, it was before 85.
Well, yeah, but it's college. If you don't go to college, you really don't amount to much. And for years, truth be told, blue collar workers were looked down upon in
Oh,
society.
I think they still are.
And so it's one of those things. I think they want people to go to college because college gets them what?
Oh, I know.
All these people graduate college and hey, we have to have, I don't want to down talk college down. We have to have engineers, doctors, and one of the most fulfilling things.
Okay, wait a minute. You said you have to have college for an engineer.
No, you don't. You don't have to.
Like you just said, but we need it for engineers and doctors.
Well, but here's the deal. So I don't do the same kind of, and I don't want to take, because it takes away from what they've done. Right? They've spent a lot of time, energy, and effort in learning their skill, and that's where I was fixing to go with that. One of the funnest things about my job is seeing the collaboration that is a necessity between legitimate engineers and people like myself that's more of an on-the-job training, experienced mechanic. And that, it's invaluable at a company like mine when we develop a product, and then we've got a product that goes all over the world. Roger, we're in 120, 130 different countries, right? And so whenever you got problems that we go, why is this happening? It's only happening in this part of the world. Well, you need a guy that's got the mentality of, it's got a lot of education, and they know the equations, they know all this stuff, but they pair well when you give them to somebody like myself that is articulate and can talk and can speak in ways that the engineers understand, and so college is a need in the United States. We have to have doctors. Yes. But at the end of the day, what we didn't need to do is make those mutually exclusive and downgrade the other one.
You bet.
And that's the problem.
Exactly what happened.
Yeah. And so, for 40 years, 50 years in this country, blue collar workers is seen as less when, it was somewhere in, my early 30s that I started realizing, Roger, when you're driving around town and you start to see the trucks that are sitting outside the houses. Oh, that's a $300,000 house. That's a $400,000 house. That's a service truck. That house, that dude's got that's a plumber's truck, or okay. Well, then you start to realize who's making the money. And I don't want to say like tradesmen are all out there the richest people in the world, but
they can make a good living.
When you want to be the best, and in the trades, you can make a very good living.
When you want to be the best, you can make whatever kind of living you want.
That's absolutely true.
I remember I was at a networking event with real estate agents one day, and I get up and talk, and they find out I'm a plumber. And one of the guys comes up and he says, the plumbers that live in my neighborhood, he said, they've got the biggest house. They own a company, and he told me what company. He said, their house is so big, it's like twice as big as any other house in the neighborhood. Yeah. And everybody's like asking, hey, whose house is that? It's a plumber. They own a plumbing company.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I understand that. And they're like, yeah, but it surprises so many people. It's like, I understand that too.
Yeah.
It takes a good education to get in the trades.
Yeah.
Meaning you've got to be willing to learn that trade.
Yeah.
And I think that's what separates us and what we do from going to college. I was talking to an accountant one day. I said, so when you went to college, how many hours each year do you think you really learned accounting? And they're like, probably 12 or 15, 15 or 20, something like that. And I'm like, per year? It's like, well, no, really per semester. So, okay, so you learned accounting 30 hours per year. And they're like, yeah. And it's like, you learn plumbing 40 hours a week, every week. We don't take summers off.
Right.
We don't take spring break.
Right.
We don't take winter break, Christmas, exactly. Thanksgiving. It's like, look, we got work to do.
Mm-hmm.
And it blows some of their minds that a plumber will have 8,000 hours experience working in plumbing before they'll ever go take their journeyman exam.
Yeah.
And they've got 120 hours before they go take their CPA exam. Now, tell me who's better trained.
Yeah.
And it's funny because then when they get out and they take that exam, well, they may get out and make, $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 a year starting out. Well, that plumber, after 4 years of being an apprentice, right now should be making about $60,000 to $80,000 a year,
and they don't have a ginormous loan to pay back off. Dude. And that's the thing. And like I said, it is to each their own. And I'd have loved. Don't get me wrong, Roger. I'd have loved to truth be told, if I could go back and do things, when my dad said you can go to school, I would have put the 4 years of effort in.
Oh, yeah.
I would have. I really would have. Whether I got out and did the trades, which is probably what I would have done, but I've tried to go back to school, Roger, several times. And I mean, you know, it's self-discipline, truth be told.
It is.
But man, life gets in the way. And so like I've always teach, you know, kids, if you're in school, listen, go out there and get some sort of degree. Really, it will help you. It'll benefit you in life. It shows your employer after high school that you pursued extra education, right? I mean, so
on your own.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So it's very beneficial and helpful. I would go back and do that. But then again, too, like, you know, I mean, being in a trade, you know, it is 100% comparable to being college educated. 100%.
Oh, I agree. I think, again, just because of the hours, I think there's even more education in the trades.
Yeah.
I had Randy Carpenter, a plumber, in here a while back, and he said the company that he works for, that I'm part owner of, we spend $10,000 a year per plumber on education. You have to keep, you know why? Because technology, Roger.
Oh, yeah.
The tools of your trade changes. You know, build specs, build quality changes. So if you're going to get left behind if you're not actively seeking training, you know, and that's the deal. So that's one of the KPIs, you know, the key performance indicators for my company. Like, we have to be trained.
Oh, yeah.
You're required, I think the minimum requirement's 40 hours of training a year. I may be misspeaking that, but that's the minimum.
Whole week.
That's the minimum. And but that's the minimum. There are a lot that do way more than that, you know? And so, and that's the thing, is that if you're not training, you're not growing your brain. You're either moving forward in life or you're going backwards. There's no such thing as staying the same. Now let's talk about quality control.
Yeah.
A lot of people that get trained don't always still do what they're supposed to do.
And that's true. And I've seen it. I almost wanted to say that, like, when it comes to quality, there's craftsmen. We talked, you know, you're either a craftsman or you're not. I think that goes back into leadership. I think that craftsmanship can be taught if you're apprenticed under the right people, your circle of influence. But yeah, quality, you know, the short time that I spent on TikTok, I got rid of it, but the short time I spent, you know, I'm watching these people go through these new home inspections, and I go, oh my gosh.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh. And I go, dude, like, this is why I'm buying a house built in 1977. You couldn't, as a tradesman, I'm sorry, but you couldn't get me to buy a new built home today unless it was by a full-blown custom builder.
You bet.
Like, you really could.
But even the full-blown custom builders, and I've seen them, you've got to go in, you've got to look at it and say, wait, why are y'all only using one nail here?
Yeah.
Yeah. Why are you skimping this? You know, that's not built right.
And that's the thing, is that, like I say, so it's a lot of them who you grew up around, who you're taught around. So my pappy, he told me a couple of things. Cleanup's part of every job.
Unless you're an electrician.
That's exactly right. And then at the end, so this is a big one. If you ain't got time to do it right the first time, then you damn sure ain't got time to do it twice.
Yep.
Slow down and do it right the first time. Now, there's differences, you know, when we talk about quality of work, craftsmanship. Truth be told, I really don't think it takes, in the grand scheme of things, I don't think it takes much longer to pay attention to detail. Now, right, wrong, and different, I may be a little OCD, according to my wife, but, you know, two, it's, like I say, it's the way you taught, you know, I mean, if we could go back here a second, you know, I'll take you back to circa 2002, 2003, maybe, One Better Plumbing era.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and so we're doing a house remodel in Farmersville, Texas, you know, and I show up there, and, you know, all the it's pier and beam homes, all the floors, subfloors are out of it, and we're running new plumbing, new PVC for this whole house. And I was taught a special way to do it, and it was attention to detail, and it didn't take that much different. And, you know, I brought some stuff. It's up to you, but
yeah,
I brought something to show you. Okay, so at the end of the day, this is just a little plumbing joint that I had the Home Depot receipt that I'd built this, sketched the schematic out on, and I'm not a plumber, Raj, so I don't know what this would ever be used for. I realize that all ends are capped besides this inlet, but nonetheless, I just wanted to show you, like at the end of the day, so if you go to a closet or somewhere, right, and these joints are all, like I guarantee you, they're all glued together. They're all clearly primed.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, clearly.
You know, clearly primed. And at the end of the day, you know, that joint will hold up. You know, we pressure tested the whole 9 yards. It is, I wish I'd have brought in the schematic because I actually drew out, all these are, you know, they've got dimensions to them. And so I made this here and I was like, okay, well, like I said, doesn't leak, nothing's wrong with it, right? But I was taught back in the year then, 2002 or so, by a man named Roger Wakefield that there's a better way to do plumbing.
You bet.
Okay, and so this was the way that I was shot. I was told to do plumbing.
Mm-hmm.
And if you notice there, all of the lettering.
First thing I see.
All of the lettering is on the upside.
You bet.
And for an OCD person like myself, I even go through and they're even pointed the same direction. Roger, I'm telling you, like it really doesn't take much longer to do this. It really doesn't. And back then when we were in that house, there was a box of old painter's rags, right? So you keep a painter's rag. And guess what? If you get this stuff all over, to take a painter's rag and wipe it up real quick.
Yep.
And so when you talked about quality, right? So when you talk about quality, let's say, like I said, you're a new home builder, you know, you're building thousands of homes a year, you know, 10, you know, whatever. And you have one PVC supplier. This is something that I do in my job, right? So if we have a batch from our supplier that comes in and we realize we've got a problem with something, well, there's a batch ID to it. So quickly we can go to POs, we can search out and find where that batch of bad material is at. Now, once again, I'm not a plumber, but, you know, I don't know if PVC has bad batches, but if I was to come up to this house, I mean, you could see the date this PVC was manufactured. You could see what I'm almost assuming is the batch date, you know, 131, right? Mm-hmm. So if I was an inspector at this new house and I come up and I open the closet and I see that, I go, and this is what me and my friend Drake were talking about, and this gets back to craftsmen. And you ask the question, how do we get people in here? How do we get them to make? It's difficult because there are people that will go in and per the schematic, this is 100%.
There's nothing wrong with that.
And guess what? Pressure tested and it leaks. It doesn't tell you anything about the job, but this will tell you everything about the person that installed it.
Mm-hmm.
And as an inspector, quality, anything like that, whenever you've got something like this, you know that the person is either well-trained or pays enough attention to detail that you shouldn't need to scrutinize his work, right? So if you're coming up on new inspection, you go, okay, I just need to make sure all this stuff is code and it pressure test out and we're good. You show up to a closet like so, and I don't, and forgive me, I'm telling you, I didn't try to make this like extra crap. I just didn't pay attention.
Right.
I really didn't. And so, but you might go, okay, well, in a few of the key areas where a lot of people mess up, I'm going to make sure we pull out the magnifying glass on it. And so, like I say, it's just, when it comes to quality, you can teach quality and you can teach craftsmanship, but too, I think once again, it lies on the individual.
Yeah, and you said it too, inspectors realize that.
Yeah. Oh,
inspectors can look at something and say, okay, this person is very prideful in their work. They're going to do things right. I remember one of the first jobs I ran on my own. I had an apprentice with me and we had done a rough end. It was for one of the dart stations. And it was kind of misting that day or something. The inspector pulls up and he gets out and we go over walking by the ditch. And whenever we got over there, I told you, right before we walked over, I told the apprentice to go grab my 2-foot level. And so he went and grabbed it and we're walking along and the inspectors kind of stopped and double looked at something. You know, the apprentice like, you need the level for that? The inspector looked down, started laughing. He said, do you see the way the letters are all turned the same way? All facing the same direction. The joints are all, he said, do you see that? And the apprentice says, yeah. He said, trust me, the plumber who put this in made time to make sure it's leveled.
Exactly.
Because if you worry about one thing, you worry about everything.
That's exactly right.
And man, the apprentice just was like, wow, that's pretty cool.
You know, and Roger, like you taught, I would not have known this had I not been trained this.
But we're all trained. I learned it from Austin Speak.
Okay.
So it's like we all learn different things.
Yeah. And
we always look back through the course of our careers and we'll remember things we learned the right way.
Absolutely.
We also look at plumbers. I've done things before and right in the middle I thought, yeah, so-and-so did this a different way. And man, not the way to do it.
Yeah.
We learn good and bad from everybody.
Yeah.
And the thing is, and people watch my videos all the time, and they said, well, how do I know if I'm working with a good journeyman or not? It's like, no, you know.
Oh, yeah.
You can look at what they're doing and you know,
Yeah.
hey, this is really good. Hey, this person takes pride in their work. Or, hey, this person is just in a hurry to get things done.
Yeah.
You know, whatever it is. It's tough. So you brought something else down there.
Yeah.
Show me what else you brought.
Yeah, I wanted to show you. So just to give an example, when I say I work on drilling machines, everybody thinks oil and gas and everything. And so this is the open pit drills. This is a 16th scale model here. So they're on excavator tracks. And so this is what, you know, at the end of the day, if we can't farm it, we have to mine it, right?
Yeah.
So if any raw materials comes out of the ground, and our drills are the first step in that process. So we punch holes in the ground with our drills that we manufacture, and then the guys come in, fill them full of explosives. They blow the ground up, and then they take the raw material, the crusher, and then they pull out whatever it is, whether it's gold, copper, iron ore, diamond, silver, platinum.
Wow.
You know, so yeah, this is my welding. I'm not a pipe welder. I'm not, you know, so I'm an API certified structural welder. So derricks, mainframes, any welding that's done on any of these things has to be done by an API certified welder, or it's what we've had at the past. And so just to give an example of what it is that I work on, a lot of people, like I say, when they say that, all kinds of things come to mind. And so, yeah, this is one of the middle machines. And for reference, I brought the Pit Viper 351. So this is our biggest one.
All right.
So, but this one, these are scale.
Wow.
This one here is about 230,000 pounds put up, but this one here, like I say, is 388,000 pounds put in. This will drill about a 14-inch hole in the hardest substance known to mankind fairly quickly, in about 2 hours. We can punch about a 60-foot hole, magonite, I mean, whatever you think of. And so,
and I saw a big drill like this, thinking about it just the other day. I was in Miami.
Yep.
And they're building a new building, and it was probably something smaller like this, but
yeah,
I'm looking up at this bit thinking, man, that's got to be 50, 60 feet up there.
Yep.
Pretty interesting.
Yep. And so this is a 90-foot tall derrick, and so we fit 60-foot pieces of drill pipe in here, and so this is, I just wanted to give a kind of a representation of what was manufactured right here in Garland, Texas, that took this old hometown Wiley boy all over the world. And so
pretty neat stuff.
Yeah, it is pretty unique. Like I say, to get the opportunity to work on something like this as a fabricator, welder, mechanic, I've definitely been blessed my whole life. I mean, it's pretty unique job.
Neat stuff you get to do.
Yes, sir.
Neat things, neat projects.
Yes, sir.
All right, so you're a welder. Got to travel the world. Got to see all kinds of cool, fun stuff. Going back to the first day you walked out to get a job in plumbing,
mm-hmm.
in concrete even.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you've graduated high school. You're 18. You know everything in the world.
Oh, yeah.
There's nothing else to learn.
You can ask my dad.
No, I know. I know your dad very well. I know. If you could go back today and talk to little Corbicus walking out, what would you tell yourself?
Man, that's a good one, Roger. I believe that all of my experiences in life had led me to be the person that I am sitting before you. So if I were to say to him, I'd say, in all honesty, don't make a few of the decisions that you have been making at that age. And that's the thing, Roger, is that I had this mindset growing up that, like, you have this youth to fulfill.
You bet.
Seriously.
We all thought that.
I know. And so, and I just, as a Christian, I wasn't more proactive in leading a godly life at that time. I literally was like, hey, by the time I hit my late 30s, early 40s, that's when I'll start going to church. And so I wasn't paying attention at all to my career. So if I were to go back and say something at that point in my time, I was just learning what it meant to be a hard worker. Right. And just like, my dad showed me that stuff, what it means to be a hard worker, showing up on time, doing the things you say you're going to do when you're going to do that, and being an honest and good employee. And so I was doing things like that. Yes, sir. So, but yeah, so at the end of the day, I mean, I think I would go back and tell myself to buckle down at an earlier age, right? So like, look, I mean, you're 24 years old, 22 years old, like, partying in what life's about, so I would go back and tell myself, hey man, get it in gear. You got better things to do in life than partying. And so, yeah, I think that's the message I would give myself is to, hey man.
So you'd pass on all those parties you had at 18, 20, 21?
That's what I said. I started this out saying they all led me to be the person I am here in front of you.
Absolutely.
So, if it wasn't persuading my younger self to be in school and to get some sort of education outright, like I said, whenever you're not having to work and have a family and a mortgage and car payments, and stuff like that. So it would be really to take the end of your years a little bit more serious. You don't want to ever trade, life on your years for life off of your years, as they say. But there's also a balance in being, and looking and going, hey man, if I'd known what I know now, I could have been set up for retirement at 50 instead of
or 20.
Right. So it's those things, so yeah.
I think that the things that we do, the trouble we get in, the mistakes we make, put us in the position we're at today.
Yeah, absolutely.
It makes our mind work the way it works. I think if we'd have gone back and lived a different life, we'd be living a different life now.
Oh, yeah.
Not necessarily better.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that don't party and have fun and all that.
Yeah.
Most of them aren't doing better than we are. Don't mean that bad.
Yeah.
It's just, it would be a different life. So I get that. It's,
yeah.
We always look back and say, man, I wish I'd have made less mistakes.
Yeah.
But I think that we learn enough from those mistakes, it gets us to where we're at.
And that's the truth. And it teaches you so many valuable lessons in life, but along the way too, like as a blue collar worker, when you're in those other fields, now all of a sudden, like I have experience in that, right? So now in my house, I get ready to pour a concrete pad, or a sidewalk from the shop to the,
what goes into it.
I'll do it. Like that's my toxic trait, right? Is having the money to pay somebody to do it, but being too stubborn and doing it yourself.
Yeah.
Like that's like, I won't let nobody touch most of my stuff if I don't have to, but yeah. So yeah, it's one of those things that I think, doing the concrete, doing the pipe fitting and the plumbing and the commercial plumbing, I mean, it all lended to my experience. And you've heard this in the trade. I don't care how much education you have, and I don't care how much you get pushed to the top. There is not a substitution for experience.
You bet.
There isn't one. You're either experienced in what you do or you're educated in what you do. And those are two very different things. And so it lent me experience as a blue collar worker to doing just about everything, so yeah, pretty good.
This has been good. Thanks, Corby.
Absolutely. Thank you, Roger. It's been a pleasure being here.